Good morning, Southlake, Texas. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I got to find my camera, it's right over here. We are coming to you live from Hope Chiropractic Center, and I hope you all are having an amazing start to November so far. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like once Halloween finishes, we jump into hyperdrive on the holiday season. Lots of planning, lots of parties, lots of opportunities to get together with friends and family, which is a beautiful thing. In the midst of that chaos, don't forget to take about an hour of your day to take care of yourself. Whether that be walking in silence, hitting the gym, maybe doing a yoga class, could be spending an hour in prayer, could be going to adoration or something along those lines. What we find though is that in that chaos, you need a little bit of silence to help you be able to manage that stress. Anyways, topic of today's video is upper cervical principles. They are incredibly simple. And I think sometimes in the world, based upon your exposure to health practitioners, we tend to make it very complicated for the patient. And that's because you probably have a lot of questions that surround the care because it's foreign. And we've been exposed for years and decades to the Western medicine model where we take a pill and it cures the symptom. But we're not really sure that it actually delivers long-term health and longevity. And so with that being said, I want to jump into this very, very simple. I have a lot of notes, so I'm going to be jumping into this from that standpoint. And I like to start with science in general. And if you go to a DO, an MD, a DC, a orthodontist, a dentist, an ENT, you name it, it doesn't matter what type of doctor you go to, we always start with an hypothesis. And that hypothesis is like our guiding feature for allowing us to navigate the current health issue that you are trying to come to us for answers for. And what our goal is to find that answer for you and how in the best guess possible to deliver your objective of health. So if you go into an MD or a DO, they may ask you for some symptoms, right? Your symptoms may be, I have a cough. I have a low-grade fever, we have a boogery nose. It's clear, so it could be a virus, or it's yellow, so it could be bacterial. And they start working through this idea, right? And maybe they give you amoxicillin or something along those lines, or a Z-Pack, and you go on your merry way for 10 days, and next thing you know, you're not even thinking about it again. Cool. That's one way to work through hypothesis. And in our world, we do the reverse. And the chiropractic circles. Our goal is to say that the body is created perfectly in design. And it's only when we have a breakdown on our neurological system that we start to experience symptoms. So our hypothesis is broken down nervous system, how do we fix it? And when you come into the Hope Chiropractic Center or any upper cervical office for that matter, what will happen is that we work through a series of tests to prove our hypothesis that we know that the problem is in fact an issue with your neurological system that has been there probably for quite some time. Now, I don't have an answer on why it is there. For some people, it's very simple because they had a big trauma in their life. Those would be like our spinal fusion patients. For others, it could be years of just chronic low-grade stress. It could be financial stress, it could be family stress, abuse, emotional challenges, etc. But what we find is that once our neurology becomes compromised, there's only one place that we can accurately fix that, and that is our upper cervical spine. And that's usually a result of basic principles of neuroanatomy. And for those of you who have never taken a neurology class, it's like the master switch of your circuit board that sits right here at the top bone of your neck. 80% of your neurology is guided by the positioning of your head on your spine. This is like just straight neuro. And so what we look at is what is causing a deficit in our posture that is giving us a resultant neurological expression of a symptom. And so what we start with in our evaluation is a very simple process. And for those of you who have been through here, you have seen me talk about this idea of an infrared thermography. And so since the earliest times of chiropractic, we were trying to validate the need for an adjustment, right? And so what we found was that you could use body temperature to determine if or when a neurological imbalance is present, because our blood flow is regulated by our autonomic system, which is coordinated by the positioning of the top bone of our neck, which sends a signal into your brainstem to control blood vessel diameter. Simple neuro. And so what will happen is that in the old days, like the 1910s, they would put mud on your back and they would try to see which side dried faster, or if they dried at the same amount of time. As we progressed in science, thermodynamics was invented in the 1930s, and it gave us the opportunity to create technology that allowed us to measure heat differentials between the right and left side. Thank God for the 1970s, because a really smart engineer came into our field and he developed a pattern analysis. And his point was that each individual person has a unique infrared scan. So my scan is different than your scan, and of the people watching, you all have different scans. And what he aimed to do was to find a consistent, persistent pattern of thermal plotting. And over time, let's say 25 years of data and research, we discovered that there is a standard balance point for neuroanatomy, and that is within 0.3 degrees Celsius between your right and your left side. So for most people in the Americas, or most people in the world, in fact, a majority of you cannot do that, because we have exposed ourselves to so much stress, unbeknownst to our body, that it's just a matter of time before we have an expression of a symptom. It's the metaphorical straw that broke the camel's back. Right now the season is, I picked up a pumpkin and now I can't stand up straight, right? And you're like, oh my God, my back is broken. I think I have severe degeneration, I'm dying, when 9 times out of 10 that's not the case. However, so what we do here, let me backtrack a little bit, is that we start our hypothesis with an analysis of your thermal regulation. So we run a scan. Scan runs up the back of your spine along the right and the left side, and it gives us a graphic representation of your thermal regulation. If in fact you can regulate your heat within a 0.3 degrees Celsius tolerance, you probably don't need chiropractic care. It actually means that you're probably a relatively healthy individual, you're in a state of great function, you don't have a lot of issues going on, and you might be a candidate for wellness, which would be a periodic check, like you would go to the dentist to make sure you don't have any cavities. You're just following normal recommendations. However, for those of you who do not regulate within that, it warrants that we have a problem with regards to the top bone of your neck or the second bone of your neck. And our next process that we work through is a systematic breakdown to find out exactly which bone is the problem, which side is the problem, and how we can fix it. Now, in application, this sounds so simple. I mean, in theory, this sounds simple. Oh, well, you have a right and a left side, and you have 2 bones. That should not be that hard, right? However, there are a million variables that come into this. And so what we try to do is we try to eliminate those variables by working through a series of tests. And so our first thing that we check, one, is our scanning to make sure that we do have a problem with thermal regulation. If that is positive, we start to work through a few more things. First being our posture. So what we do is we have you stand and we have you close your eyes and turn your head right and left. Why do we have you close your eyes? Well, when you're a baby, the first reflex you develop is called the riding reflex. Riding reflex develops the top 4 muscles of your neck called the SOT, which is responsible for allowing your head to sit in a balanced position and to find the horizon. If we close your eyes, you won't be able to find the horizon. It will give us a little window into how your neurology is functioning, which would give us like a head tilt. So your head might sit up and you might be sitting like this, or you might be sitting to the left, or you could have a head rotation. All this does is puts into picture an idea of what kind of deficit we have and why is it there. And those lead us down a path of questions to understanding what's happening. So once we go through that posture assessment and we get an idea of what our body is trying to tell us as a deficit, we go into our ranges of motion. And it's funny to me because some people, I ask them, I go, I want you to look for a car over your right shoulder. So that's this shoulder over here. And they'll go like this, right? Their head can't even turn the full 90 degrees it's meant to turn, which is looking straight over your shoulder. And so we start to understand that we have some type of locking mechanism taking place in the neck that is protecting the structure to keep you from having normal ranges of motion. Now, I don't know about you, but going 70 miles an hour down the highway and having to turn your entire body could lead to a pretty serious situation. Once that is done and we document the deficits that we have, we look at our feet. And so in a traditional office, most of you have experienced this, where a chiropractor will be looking at your feet and he'll be holding them, looking for a difference and a deficit. And what you'll typically see is an opposite side deficit of the body. Meaning if you have a problem with the right side of your neck, there is a cerebellar tract that runs from the top of your skull down to the opposite side of the body, and you'll have a short leg. And what I mean by a short leg is that your left leg will potentially be shorter if you have a right-sided problem. And that can be manifested in a 1/2 inch, it could be in a 1/4 inch, it could be something along those lines. Now, if we do have that deficit in your feet, that just points to us and lets us know that we do have a problem, right? So now we're getting these green lights saying, hey, okay, so our scans are showing us that we have an issue. Posture is favoring a right side. Range of motion is showing us that our right side is a deficit. And now we look at our feet, we in fact have a left short leg. And so then we want to check out if it's a C1 or a C2 issue. So we'll do some tests on our feet and we'll determine which side is favorable. This paints a picture, right? So now all of a sudden we're looking at this data, this information, and we're saying, okay, so these are all adding up to saying we have a problem with C1 or C2 on the right. How do we find out which one it is? Well, we take x-rays. And I know that many times people say, well, Bones, why don't you just feel, right? Well, that's like guessing. That's like going to the auto dealership, pulling your car in and going, hey, my engine makes a wrong noise. What's wrong with it, right? And the guy just telling you, oh, it sounds like it's a transmission issue. It's going to cost you $5,000. And he never even looked at your car. That doesn't make any sense. So we take 5 series of films. We look at our structure of our neck. And then we also know that within a 15-degree tolerance range of tilting your head to the right and tilting your head to your left, you should have a normal cervical biomechanical package, which would mean your C1 and C2 should move in a specific way. So with that being said, we analyze the way the bones move, and this paints our entire picture of your health. We look at our scans, we check out our posture, our ranges of motion, we look at our feet, and we analyze your x-rays, and we put together a package of what it's going to take to balance your neurology. Now, keep in mind, our best guess is based upon our clinical experience. Most people in our practice take 6 months to reestablish neurological control, which is a normal process. If you are to go and attempt to lose weight right now, you can actually think about this in daily application of life. If you're going to lose 100 pounds, it's going to take you more than a year. Fair. Unless you go believe one of the Slim for Life things and you go in and you lose 65 pounds, and the next thing you know, you're rebounding back up to 65 because it never really gave you a stable environment. So what's fascinating in our world is we apply these principles and we start to give you an adjustment according to your thermographic pattern. If we can clear that pattern and restore balance, then we know we are working along the right path. However, there are some times when we don't clear that pattern and all the information adds up and we actually need to adjust you a different way. 100% normal. This is no different than our normal daily activity. If you're a fan of athletics and you go into the gym and you start a training program, I guarantee you every 6 weeks you're going to do an assessment and then make a change, because all of a sudden you start to stagnate. Things start to get different. Maybe your adaptation takes place and you're at a stronger level, so you need to stress the system harder. So it's no different in our practice. We start with a theory, we think it's a top bone on the left, and then we work through it for about 6 weeks and we find out that maybe it's better for us to adjust our top bone on the right to reestablish better neuro control. This does not mean that we've gone backwards in care. It just means that there's a better option to help get us better results to ensure that you actually start the healing process in a better way. So sometimes in the medical world, we try a theory for a given period of time because we have heard and we've worked through clinical experience to make sure that that's what works. That's how medical practice works, period. That's how you have the anterior hip replacement instead of a lateral hip replacement. That's why you do a scope on the knee. That's why stem cell is coming into the world, because more and more of that practice is being done, so we have more research to back it up to understand why we're doing this process. So in our world, our goal is to deliver neurological balance over time. That would mean that sometimes we have to make clinical decisions that change the way that we adjust you. 100% normal. That is the way the practice works. It's respecting the natural adaptation of the human body, and it's giving us an opportunity to evaluate a window of time to help you achieve your goals. So what's different about upper cervical care is that we just don't lay you down and crack you. We have a theory, we're working through the theory. It's a very simple theory in theories. One bone, one side, you rest for 20 minutes, over time you should get healthy. But hopefully this video has shown you that in application, it's actually quite difficult because we have to continually evaluate your thermographic pattern. We have to continually assess our adjusting skills and ensure that the adjustment that we are giving you is delivering the neurological balance we're aiming to achieve. However, one principle is very, very true. We know that given the proper amount of time with the right adjustment, all of your health issues will go away and you will restore a normal quality of life, which would be free of disease. And when I say disease, I mean an absence of emotional, physiological, and physical stress, giving yourself the opportunity to express the best version of yourself. I hope this clarifies a little bit of what the upper cervical office is like and what kind of experience you can expect when you come in, and gives you a little bit more hope to understand that it is not a pop and pray method, that this is a very objective study of understanding exactly what your body is doing at a given point in time and making our best clinical decision to help you get the best results. And all we ask of you is to give us your time and give to us the respect that we are working with you to help get the best results possible. And sometimes that's going to require us to make a change. And when we make a change, it doesn't mean that we've gone backwards. It just means that things can be done better. And when we do them better, you get healed faster, you get health quicker, and you start to see the benefits that you've been seeking for a long period of time. If you guys have any questions, go back, watch this. I know it's a long video. It's a lot of science that comes into it. However, I hope it gives you a bit of an intake into the mind of us and what we're looking at when we're evaluating a patient for an upper cervical deficiency. I hope you all have an awesome day. God bless.